The next item is the community center funding presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is, I guess, the latest episode in an ongoing series of conversations that we've had, staff has had at the council level and in front of the public to really talk about what staff is looking at. What staff is looking at as it relates to our facilities. Last meeting we came forward, we talked about some of the conversations we're having internally about 10 versus 20-year bonds. We've talked about some of the things that are happening in our facilities. We'll continue to have those conversations as we continue to investigate these things, just so everybody knows where we're at. We assume at some point in time we will have enough information to make some sort of decision on what we think the best course of action is. And as we continue to research information to that end, we want to make sure that everybody knows where we're at and that we're not off base. So tonight's conversation I want to talk a little bit about is, and I will try to be quick, but I kind of got moved by the spirit of March Madness and tournament and elimination play, and really thought that conversation and a elimination game was very appropriate to talk about my next topic, which is really sales tax. We're talking about the possibility of funding a facility, funding improvements to our city with the sales tax. We've thrown out the number, a 1/4-cent sales tax, because sales tax are pretty well in our community right now. Most people that will pay that sales tax come out from outside of our community, and that seems to be the most appropriate way if we're going to do these things that we should pay for. Well, one of the things that I think it's our job internally is that we recognize and we acknowledge all the time that we have a pretty good sales tax base. The last thing we would want is to have a sales tax increase and have that put us at a competitive disadvantage. That's the last thing we would want. Doesn't matter how strong our sales tax is, we scare off all the people that come here and spend their hard-working money, or the people that live here spend their hard-working money on the things that we actually offer in our community. So kind of dug down into that and kind of looked at where we would fit into the marketplace competitively. This isn't a conversation about appropriate levels of taxation. This isn't a conversation about what we have to offer here in Marion versus what some of our friends to the north, south, east, and west have. This is strictly just based on who we would consider to be our competition, which is our friends to the north, south, east, and west. But those are the places that people come and spend their money, places where our residents will go and spend their money. That if we were to have a 1/4-cent sales tax, would it truly place us at a competitive disadvantage? What's our sales tax capacity? So that's really what I'd like to talk about tonight. So in the spirit of March Madness, I think it's important that we set the field. We've got to have that field. Who is our competition? Who is it that we're looking for? I chose pretty much everybody in Johnson County for my initial run through, with an eye to obviously the I-35 corridor. I-35 corridor is really, that's where we sell our cars, that's where our IKEA is, that's where people that come to our community being the metropolitan area, they're going to come up and down I-35. So that's really kind of where I put my eye on. But these are the sales tax rates of everywhere in Johnson County. Because we do share a border with Kansas City, Kansas, I included Kansas City, Kansas in there. And so, well, we're squinting to look for Marion. There's Marion right there. These are the sales tax rates April 1. So these take into account the sales tax increase that's getting ready to occur from the county that the taxpayers voted on last November for the courthouse. So this is actually not even today, but this will be what the sales tax rate will be effective here Saturday. So that's where we'll be. 9.225 puts us kind of right in the middle. That's a pretty good seated position. However, I've got to be completely honest with you that if you look at that field, it's not really fair to stack up against all of those cities in there because we don't compete with them on a lot of things. So if you will, for the sake of my presentation here, if you let me call out a few of these individual ones, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate them because I need some early wins. I need some confidence in this conversation. So Lake Quivira, unless we think our residents or we're competing with one country club and one gas station, I would not view their 7.975 as a threat to any of our business in here. Same thing with Mission Woods, Edgerton, Mission Hills. Mission Hills, they've got their 3 golf courses. I don't think that we have anything to compete with them. So I'm going to respectfully request we eliminate them. Same thing with Westwood and Westwood Hills. Great communities in northeast Johnson County, but the people that are going to come to our community are already coming to our community. they're not going to pass us up over a sales tax increase to go do anything in Westwood or Westwood Hills. Spring Hill borders 2 counties. I just took the Johnson County, but that's not really competition, so we're going to eliminate them. Same thing with Bonner and DeSoto. So for the early win, if you don't mind, I'd like to just scratch them from the list. So where does that leave us? Leaves us with what I would call truly our competition in the marketplace. Merriam, there's our 9.225, went from about an 8-9 seed in the middle up to the top third, so now we're number 4 from the lowest with our existing sales tax rate, but that's not really the sales tax rate we're talking about. We're talking about a 1/4 cent sales tax increase. So if we were to have a sales tax increase of a 1/4 cent, it would take us to 9.480. Well, I know what you're thinking. It doesn't look as exciting as it did before, because now I'm in the bottom third. Top third to the bottom third. However, this is where it kind of gets exciting. This is why we play the game. This is where the elimination comes in. So if you'll just bear with me for a second here. I'm going to cross off Michigan, I'm going to cross off Shawnee, and I'm also going to cross off Fairway. Reason being that with or without a sales tax increase, they have a higher sales tax increase rate than we have. Shawnee's 9.6, Michigan's 9.6, Fairway's 9.975. So regardless if we do anything with sales tax, from a competitive disadvantage or advantage conversation, they are not our competition. People will still go buy goods there. They offer goods that we don't offer, and we wish them well to do so. But in terms of competitive disadvantage, are we going to chase our residents away from our hen house to go to Shawnee to buy food? If they're doing that for the sales tax, you're going to the wrong community because you're going to pay more if it's a sales tax issue. So I'd like to remove them from the list. Now I know this looks even less attractive because now we're at the bottom of the list. But just bear with me for a minute, because this is where it gets exciting.
I can't wait.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle Olathe, and not because we don't like Olathe, but Olathe is on I-35. But this is where information, this is where transparency, this is where kind of interpretation of what people are really paying. These are city sales tax rates. However, the city sales tax rate is not what people pay at the point of sale. They pay CID taxes, they pay TDD taxes, and that's what I'm going to illustrate, and I'm going to compare our numbers to. Now, this is for illustrative purposes. I'm not going to say that there's not somewhere in Olathe where you might be able to go and spend a little bit less than us. But on the I-35 corridor, you've got the behind Bass Pro, north of Bass Pro, next to Bass Pro, 119th in Ridgeview, 119th in Black Bob, 119th in Strangline. All of those areas down there have a higher sales tax that the consumer will pay at the point of sale than our 9.480. So I'm going to respectfully request that we just go ahead and we knock Olathe off, because we have a lower sales tax rate, even with an increase over Olathe. Same thing with Gardner. Gardner, great community on the I-35 corridor, but in Gardner, I think they have, and Chief might step in here as a Gardner resident, I think they have a Burger King, a Walmart, and a car dealership, but it's a Ford dealership. That's not competition for us because we don't have a Ford dealership. So I'm going to respectfully request that we go ahead and we dump those two. So if we eliminate those, we're still at the bottom, but that list is getting smaller. Okay, we're getting down to about the Elite 8 here. So Kansas City to our north. You know, I'm not sure what kind of competition we're going to have in Kansas City, Kansas. People could choose to go to Kansas City, Kansas, as opposed to come here to Merriam. But they love CIDs and TDDs. So most of the places that people are going to go and buy goods and services in Kansas City, Kansas, do not have a sales tax rate of 9.375, as we view them as competition for the things that we do. People are going to go up to the Legends, people are going to go to 39th and Rainbow, the Happy Foods new store, about 5 years old, up on Metropolitan Avenue. They've got CIDs, they've got TDDs. All of these are higher than our 9.480. All of them. So, if I may, I'm going to scrap Kansas City. Next, I'm going to go after our neighbors Lenexa and Roland Park. So we'll go with Lenexa first, and then we'll work our way up the list to Roland Park. Lenexa, so they've got a 9.350 sales tax rate. But if you're going to go to East Village, or if you're going to go anywhere around Oak Park Mall, which would be the easiest to get to, because Lenexa owns 2 corners, Oakland Park owns the other 2 corners. Those have CIDs on them. If you go to 87th and Rose Hill, which is Greystone South, that's down there on 87th by City Hall. Tanner's is down there. You know, once again, illustrative purposes, it is possible that you could go to Lenexa and you could go all the way down to Flum and go to what is that, Hy-Vee. You could go to the Hen House all the way down at Lackman in 87, but you're probably not going to chase too many people that come to our community or are already in our community as residents to this different community if we raise our sales tax rate. Roland Park, anybody that's shopped up in Roland Park knows that Roland Park, nice little community, but other than the Lowe's and the Price Chopper, which are both TDDs, even though they're in the same little strip mall there, and the Walmart, nowhere up there are you. I'm sure there's a gas station somewhere that you could go buy a pack of gum for $9.225, but I don't know of any other retail areas in Roland Park where our residents or people that would come to our community to buy goods and services would be able to go. So I'm going to ask to eliminate them too. And I'm also going to go ahead and eliminate our own competition, which is us. Our current rate of 9.225, just because I'm trying to get us down to 0. So here we are, we're down to the last three. So now once again, this is for illustrative purposes, but these are city sales tax rates. So this is truly what the city is going to charge, but this is their CIDs, there are TDDs. It's not what the customer charges them. I'm looking at this from a competitive disadvantage. I can't recommend to the council, I can't recommend to the rest of my staff, nor would I ask you to recommend to our residents that we could have a sales tax increase if it was going to harm us. It would be counterproductive of what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to illustrate here. So now that we're down to the final four, I'm just going to go ahead and open all of them up here. Overland Park, they big city. They have embraced in several locations their TDDs and their CIDs. So anywhere around Oak Park Mall, most of the places down around the shopping center that they share with Leawood, down the town center area. You've got, the interesting thing that I see on there is and I thought I'd point it out, is the CID at Metcalf and 91st Street. They actually have a McCarthy and a Bob Allen. They have car dealerships in that CID. And those are successful car dealerships. And people still go down there and they pay 10.1% in sales tax. 10.1. Dealerships that are in a CID. So that's just for illustrative purposes that I'm not sure that the people that are coming and buying new automobiles or coming to our community or shopping within our community, we're going to scare them off. Overland Park, even though I'm going to cross them off the list just because I'm on a roll, really you could still go down to Walmart. You could go down to Acura. Those are both on I-35. If you're a sales tax shopper. But the reality is, that rate of 9.1, if you're chasing the sales tax rate, that's lower than our rate today. So you're already there. So we're not scaring you away. You've already left. Or you're already skipping over the great things that we have to offer in our community, because if you are a sales tax shopper, you're not our customer anyway.
And you mentioned Walmart, we don't have a Walmart.
Correct. Yeah, but you could go there for grocery stores. I mean, my concern would be for our grocers and for other things that we do have. If you're seeking out a lower sales tax rate than our proposed 9.480, if we were able to get a sales tax increase, you're already gone, if that's your concern. Same thing with Leawood. Leawood down there, there's not a whole lot that I would argue that we compete with at Leawood, but in terms of people that would come through our town, perhaps go to other places in Johnson County, everything down 119th and Row, those all have CIDs on them, they're all over 10. So yes, they have a city sales tax rate of 9.1, but I don't know where you're going to go in Leawood to buy things that you would normally buy here over that tax rate. So once again, for illustrative purposes, I'll eliminate it. Prairie Village, nice community. Really, you have about 2-3 places in Prairie Village that you would go shopping at. None of them really competition for anything that goes on here. They don't have car dealerships, they don't have an IKEA. They've got the village shops, they've got Corinth Square. Those are the two biggest retail areas, commercial areas that they have. Both of them have CIDs, 9.975. That's more than our 9.480. So really the only places in Prairie Village, which I would say touts the lowest city sales tax rate, that you would go be able to find goods and services would be on 95th Street, either on 95th and Mission, which would be down around Ranch Mart, or 95th and Null, which is around Ranch Mart, just south of Meadowbrook, the country club that is turning into a county park, or 95th and Mission, which is the corner with Leawood. So those would be the only places in Prairie Village you could actually go to any retail place and pay 8.975. So once again, in the spirit of elimination, I'm going to take all of them out of play, and it just leaves us. we don't have any CIDs, we don't have any TDDs. This is what our sales tax rate would be should the taxpayers decide that it makes sense. We would have a rate of 8.480. If this was elimination competition, we would have won. We'd be slapping high fives right now, and the whole point is just that, well, this is what city sales tax rate, a chart would look like. That doesn't tell the whole story. So the whole point of this is to share with you that I believe that the city of Marion has the capacity to have a 1/4 cent sales tax increase and not scare people off. Yes, we could have conversations, we could have public conversations about appropriate levels of taxation, and hey, does it make sense, and this and this and that, and what you're going to do with the sales tax increase. But in terms of putting us at a competitive disadvantage with our neighbors, i.e. competition, I don't believe that that happens with a 1/4 cent sales tax. So should the day come that we feel like there's enough information to have a conversation about what we should do going forward with the sales tax, this would be an issue that I don't believe warrants a whole heck of a lot of headache or worry. That being said, I know I flew through this, but I was on the roll. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has about any of this.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When a shopper, a potential car buyer in one of these other cities asked what the sales tax rate is, do dealers give only the sales tax rate, or are they required to say what all is included in that and at the add-ons?
I do not know the answer. That's a great question. My
Because
guess
that
would
could be
they-
deceptive advertising.
They would probably give the all-in cost, because, I mean, eventually you're gonna look at it and go, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't compute. But I also don't know how many folks come and buy cars in our particular, most of our dealerships that are looking at the .005. I mean, one of the things, the difference between Olathe and us, Gardner and us is .005. .005 on a sales tax percent is $5 on 1,000. It's or if it's 5 cents on a $1,000 bill. So for every $1,000, it's an extra 5 cents. That's our next closest competitor, if you will, in sales tax rate. So I mean, if there are individuals that are that fiscally disciplined, I applaud them. But I'm not sure how many people are for that. But there are, I mean, you know, there's people that'll, out of principle, say, hey, you know what, I'm going somewhere else. And principle's good. And there's people that'll say, I'll spend $2 in gas to save 50 cents on a loaf of bread.
More power to it.
Yes, more power to you. It's hard to argue with those facts. So once again, this is not a conversation about that. This is a presentation and a sharing the thoughts that my belief is, in conversations that I've had, that we would not put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage if we were to have a city sales tax. So if the question were to be asked, well, hey, won't this take us out of the market? Won't this hurt us? I could stand up in front of everyone and say, I do not believe that it will. Does it make everybody happy if we have sales? Probably not, but that's why we more than likely would take this to the public and ask the public if it makes sense. It's for them to determine appropriate levels of taxation. It's for them to, at least as it comes to sales tax, to determine if the expenditures of funds based on the sales tax make sense to them. And they will get an opportunity to say that, I would assume. This is strictly, if they said yes, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? I don't believe so.
Okay. Very thorough, thank you very much.
Thank you.